The Power of Focus. Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Do you remember the last time you focused all your mental energy on doing something? Do you remember how it felt at that moment? Today we'll talk about flow, a state of high concentration when doing something. In the usual sense, focus can help improve work performance and complete tasks. But in reality, the state of high concentration of flow is also related to our sense of happiness. This state can even give us a sense of extreme happiness. Every day, listening to a valuable book will help you have a happier and easier life, promoting your thinking to a new level. Today, we will learn together about the book, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, by author Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. This is a book that guides us to enhance our sense of happiness and work performance. Perhaps you've also noticed that modern people often fall into two states, either feeling bored because life is too quiet or worried because of too much pressure. The theory of flow not only helps to promote concentration, but can also help cope with negative emotions. Author Mihaly, along with psychologists Martin Seligman and others, initiated the positive psychology movement to learn about this state. He not only clearly describes the psychological experience of people when achieving flow, but also systematizes the necessary conditions to achieve this state. Furthermore, he also uses advanced scientific research methods, such as the experience sampling method, to record people's daily experiences, helping to accumulate a lot of valuable data. The book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, has about 200,000 words, and we will condense it into about 6,000 words with three main parts. First, we will find out who is capable of achieving flow and feeling happy at work. Second, we will talk about how to control consciousness and emotions in order to deal with negative thoughts and maintain consciousness in an orderly manner. Finally, we will look at the conditions for flow to appear and how to create those conditions. Human life experiences are entirely based on subjective feelings. The joy of our lives actually depends on how the mind processes and creates daily experiences. If human life experiences are not good, happiness will become distant. But why don't people often feel happy? What is the cause of this unhappiness? In the primitive era of the universe, its goal was not to bring ease and comfort to humans. From an evolutionary perspective, our ancestors had to survive on a dangerous earth. Not only must they stay away from wild animals, but they must also always be ready to deal with viruses and bacteria. The author compared the consciousness of humans and animals in harsh conditions. Animals act on instinct and do not pay attention to information that is not related to survival. For example, a lion when hungry only focuses on its prey, and when full, it lies in the sun and is completely focused on the feeling of warmth without feeling troubled or desperate. In contrast, humans possess a developed brain system and are capable of thinking about the future. This helps us survive, but at the same time, it brings anxiety. To survive, we try to control the environment around us, but uncontrollable factors always exist. This makes us insecure and trades happiness for safety. However, in the process of natural evolution, nature still gives humans the opportunity to experience joy through the feeling of enjoyment, such as enjoying delicious food, enjoying relaxation after eating, or experiencing emotions in love. But is enjoyment happiness? The author believes that it is a misunderstanding of happiness. Humans pursue sensory pleasures actually because of the gene reward mechanism to promote existence and maintain the species. For example, when you enjoy a delicious dish, that joy is to help the body replenish energy and sustain life. When a man is attracted to a beautiful woman and feels the attraction of that relationship, it is also just a way of training to promote reproduction and transmission of the species. In this model, enjoying sensory pleasures is not wrong, but those joys are fleeting and not related to a lasting sense of happiness. Those who are immersed in it are actually being dominated by the direction of the gene and losing the ability to choose their own life experiences. Next, from a sociological perspective, let's consider the reasons why people are unhappy. Before the vast universe, humans always feel small and helpless. This feeling of helplessness, can be seen through many ancient myths and beliefs, from the Eskimo hunters in the Amazon basin, indigenous Native Americans, to the ancestors of the Chinese. They all used myths to build a world with order, believing themselves to be the center of the universe. These beliefs serve as a form of faith, helping ancient people live in harsh conditions without fear. However, that was the story of the distant past. Nowadays, humans have overcome those harsh survival conditions. They no longer have to struggle to survive, but then humans constantly generate new desires. When they have enough food and a comfortable place to live, are we satisfied? Most of us still fall into the loop of wanting more and more. It is obvious that although the material resources of modern humans have increased thousands of times compared to the ancients, the degree of improvement in the feeling of happiness has not increased correspondingly. Some people believe that pursuing wealth will bring happiness, but the author considers that a misunderstanding. The story of King Midas, who begged the gods to make him the richest and was granted the ability to turn everything into gold when touched, illustrates this. Midas was overjoyed, but soon after he died of starvation because all the food he touched turned into gold. The ancient legend warns us that endless wealth does not mean happiness. Many studies have shown that when a person's assets reach a certain level, the feeling of happiness will not increase correspondingly. The author believes that considering wealth as the path to happiness is just a way of control by society, making people obsessed with pursuing money. On the one hand, banks turn us into machines that earn and save money. On the other hand, advertisers encourage us to spend that money. If we only pursue things that society thinks we should pursue, even if we achieve that feeling of satisfaction, it will only come from the recognition of others, and your life will still be controlled by them. Therefore, escaping the control from society and the control of genes is a big step forward. You can see that only when you become the master of your consciousness can you achieve happiness. Do not take the reward from society as an achievement, but take the reward that you can control. Give the power to control your consciousness into your own hands. Becoming the master of consciousness means that we are free to choose our life experiences. According to author Mihaly, only those who learn to control their consciousness can choose life experiences and achieve the state of happiness. The joy we receive from life mainly depends on how our minds filter and create daily experiences. Inner harmony is not related to the ability to control the outside world, but to the ability to control our own consciousness. Immersing ourselves in the pleasures that genes bring only brings temporary joy, while pursuing financial goals set by society easily makes people slaves to society. Not only that, we are very easily distracted by messages, phone notifications, or while focusing on reading, but we keep thinking about work. At those times, your focus cannot be directed towards the original goal, causing mental energy to be dispersed, leading to feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. Author Mihaly says that to control consciousness and achieve inner harmony, first we need to control our mental energy. From a physics perspective, the concept of entropy is used to refer to the state of chaos or disorder. In Mihaly's flow theory, he uses the concept of mental entropy to describe the state of consciousness when it becomes disordered, leading to restlessness and anxiety. From a psychological perspective, we can understand that the brain's ability to process information is limited. The brain can only process about 126 bits of information per second. On average, a person who lives to be 80 years old spends 16 hours a day in a state of wakefulness. Then throughout that person's life, they can only process about 200 billion bits of information. In fact, the level of brain usage of most people is usually lower than this level. Therefore, the information you allow to enter your consciousness will directly affect your life experience. Taking on the role of gatekeeper of consciousness is your focus. Focus helps filter out the necessary information from the millions of bits of information that you are exposed to every day, then put them into consciousness. At the same time, search for data from memory to evaluate, analyze, and make decisions. Focus drives your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Because the brain's capacity is limited, people can only handle one thing at a time. Focus is a source of mental energy. If you can control it, you will be able to focus on the things that are really important, helping you move closer to your goals. When used correctly, focus will become a tool to improve your life experience. Conversely, if you let yourself be distracted by irrelevant factors or those that contradict your goals, you will find it difficult to achieve your goals. Negative emotions such as fear, anger, anxiety, and pressure will easily appear. For example, a young man trying to win the heart of a girl thinks that a trendy car will make her notice him. So he sets a goal to earn money to buy a car. But working hard makes him miss the weekly fixed climbing sessions with friends. The friends in the climbing team begin to complain that he is not participating in team activities, and he falls into a state of hesitation about choosing. His goals are constantly changing according to the newly emerging situation. At this moment, will the guy feel satisfied? Certainly not. Even worse, he has fallen into a state that psychology calls internal disorientation. That is, focus is misdirected and no longer directed toward the original goal. This makes his mental energy unable to focus, leading to lostness and dissatisfaction. In your head, you may have had many thoughts like why the match last night was lost, why do you have to work overtime alone, or will the boss praise you after completing this draft? Your attention is divided by trivial, unrelated things. Doing this but worrying about the results or calculating gains and losses makes it difficult for you to focus on your current work. Therefore, peace of mind is difficult to be present, and the flow state is very difficult to achieve. Whether from a psychological perspective, with the concept of intrinsic thinking, or from the concept of mental entropy borrowed from physics, both want to talk about one thing. The huge human consciousness system needs order. Chaos will make people insecure, and when the mind is constantly distracted, it will cause great harm to oneself, making it difficult for us to focus on achieving goals, leading to life experiences no longer being good. The author also suggests that the mental entropy state is a common condition. If we do nothing to improve it, we will easily be swept away by the chaos of consciousness and suffer from the torment of conflicting thoughts. Fortunately, physicist Singer discovered the phenomenon of negentropy, negative entropy, in nature, i.e., the tendency to move from chaos to order. For example, in the vast universe, the existence of life is a miracle where solar energy is converted into biological energy, developing from disorder into ordered creatures. So, what is the opposite of mental entropy? That is optimal experience. Optimal experience is the opposite state of mental entropy. You can understand it as a medicine for the mind. That is the state where the information you receive completely matches the set goals. At this time, mental energy flows continuously. You don't need to worry or doubt your abilities. Therefore, maintaining the stability of consciousness, this positive feedback allows you to focus more. Balance between inner self and the external environment. The optimal experience is also known as the flow state. You may have experienced this state when doing things you love, such as playing games or watching movies. The results can be winning or losing, and the end of the movie can be happy or sad. But why do you still like doing these things? Because it allows you to fall into a flow state. In this state, joy comes from the process of experiencing, and the outcome is no longer important. This is the psychological mechanism that helps flow enhance the life experience. Focus makes people happy when attention is always focused on the present without worrying about the outcome or being distracted. The feeling of internal consistency will bring a good experience. When you are in a flow state, you will no longer think about what joy is, because you are completely focused on what you are doing to the point of forgetting your own feelings of joy. However, when the work is finished and you recall what has just happened, a feeling of natural satisfaction will arise from within, bringing happiness and joy. This is the second point of view of the author. The optimal experience or flow can resist mental entropy, keeping consciousness stable and orderly. So, under what conditions will flow appear? How to achieve the flow state? You may think that the happiest moment in life is when you can completely relax without having to think about anything. But in fact, that is not the case. Although that can also bring joy, flow does not appear at that time. Flow only occurs when a person tries their best for a difficult task, exerting their maximum physical and mental strength. Only then do people feel able to control their actions and master their destiny. That is the optimal experience, an experience entirely created by humans themselves, like a swimmer breaking a record or a mountain climber reaching a new peak. When they are trying their best, they may not feel comfortable. They may even have sore muscles or be exhausted. But after the activity is over, they feel extremely satisfied, even realizing that it is the greatest moment of their lives. These experiences accumulate over time, creating a feeling of participating in determining the meaning of one's own life. That is the state closest to happiness that humans can imagine. So, what conditions must be met for flow to appear? First, the first condition for flow to form is to have a clear goal. Psychological experiments have discovered that when a person has nothing to do, living without purpose, the experienced state is much worse than when they have to do something, even if it seems forced. At that time, their spirits will become sluggish, lacking vitality, easily falling into negative emotions such as anxiety, fear, and sadness. In contrast, people with clear goals are usually confident and have high self-esteem. American philosopher and also pioneer psychologist William James once said that the power of self-esteem depends on the ratio between expectations and success. If the goals set are too high and the success achieved is too little, a person's self-esteem will hardly be satisfied, thereby creating an unpleasant experience. And if there are no goals, satisfying self-esteem is almost impossible. This shows that goals are very important to each person. Whether the goal of the action is proactive or passive, it is always better than acting without purpose. When there is a clear goal, people will begin to have specific ways to achieve it. For example, a mountain climber will set a goal to conquer the mountain peak so that they know what equipment to prepare, what route to follow, and be ready to deal with the challenges that can be overcome. At that time, their inner self will become clear and orderly. The second condition for flow to appear is to have timely feedback, helping a person to immediately recognize the quality of the work after completing each step. The mountain climber after each step will feel that they are getting closer to the top. A clear goal and timely feedback support each other. Without a clear goal, there can be no feedback because then you don't know if you have completed what you want or not. Most people have difficulty persevering with goals because their goals are often vague and not specific. For example, the goal of exercising with the intention of trying your best is not a clear goal. Your brain still has to continue to think about whether you have tried hard enough or not. But if you set a more specific goal, like 12 reps per set with a 30-second break between sets, can't do more, then stop. Then that is a clear goal and can be responded to. This feedback helps you always be alert and know what you are doing, instead of falling into a vague state, besides clear goals and timely feedback. The third condition to achieve the flow state is the compatibility between the difficulty of the challenge and your ability. When the ability is high but the challenge is too easy, you will feel bored. When the ability is low but the challenge is too high, you will feel anxious. If you do something that always makes you feel bored or anxious, it is very difficult for you to persevere. But between those two states, there exists a magical space where people easily fall into a state of concentration called the flow channel. More precisely, when the challenge exceeds your skills by about 5 to 10 minutes, you will most easily achieve the flow state. The person who tries their best to climb to the top of the mountain has also found the balance between the challenge and their ability. When the conditions of clear goals, timely feedback, and the compatibility between challenge and ability are all met, a person's consciousness will begin to focus and gradually enter the flow state, in which all unrelated thoughts and emotions will completely disappear. Even your ego will also disappear. But the feeling is stronger than usual. 2 hours can pass like only 2 minutes. At this time, whatever you do, you will achieve high efficiency because the work itself has become your purpose. This is a great experience. Flow acts as a magnet. You use advanced skills to actively face challenges. Why do people nowadays find it difficult to achieve the flow state? Because to have the flow channel appear, it requires investment in mental energy. Many people like to watch movies, follow available plots, or engage in passive entertainment instead of actively adjusting their attention to enter a more beneficial and meaningful flow experience. But it also requires a lot. Thank you for watching today's content. This episode's summary and explanation of the book, Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience, ends here. If you have personal opinions about the content, please leave a comment below. If you feel that my content is valuable, please share it with your friends and relatives. Goodbye and see you again.